On the orders of Ronald Harvey, a lady was forced to watch a group of men silence children and babies as young as 9 days old. While most men was against the act, as the leader, Ron Harvey told the men that it had to be done, as they were there just to send a message. That day would become a nightmare for all the victims, as well as some of the suspects. And as for Ron Harvey, he's hoping to make it back to catch the game he had money on. Now tonight, we're covering Philly native Ronald Harvey. Temple 12, top of the clock. Nation of Islam. Do for self. Most people will say Philly Black Mafia or Black Brothers Inc. Ron Harvey would serve as one of Malcolm X's bodyguards when he would be moving around in Philly. They was always impressed with his strength and his boxing skills and ability to move around with a rifle. But the movement might seem hypocritical when they scream do for self, but would extort black-owned businesses or any business. Extortion wasn't the only thing. They would take the life of an innocent person like it was nothing. If the business didn't pay up at all, they would pay them a visit and involve the customers and employees in the chaos. Yes, so that means the janitor would get a piece of the action. Now, viewing Mr. Harvey, he might appear as a well-rounded guy, dressed in sharp suits, carrying around a briefcase. Now, you know anyone with a briefcase have to be some type of importance. But he was slamming the latest caddy doors. Every day was a suit and tie affair. But surely he began to switch over to the bow tie. Once everyone saw how stylish he made it look, they started to rock bow ties. Now, men thought they was following his movement of fashion, but they didn't know the real reason behind the bow ties. He switched from wearing ties so his victims couldn't grab onto it. And if you get a hold of a man's tie, you can have total control over them, but there wasn't too many people that can overpower him anyway. Now, in the mid-70s, things started to turn for the worse. A lot of people thought with all the backing Ron Harvey had, it started to mess with his ego because he had plenty of arrests but didn't do any time for them. So he had that untouchable ego. He once slapped a police officer that was just there to do his job, but his acts would become far worse. Now in this pic right here, this when he was caught after making bail and decided not to show up to court. But look at his face. Does that look like someone that had any care on what's going on? You would think he was arrested for jaywalking or something. Just look at the look on his face. You can't imagine what's going on in this man's head, and that was the problem. You didn't know what was going on through his head. His own men didn't like being around him because he would just black out. Guys used to say it was like a dark cloud over his head. Although he had the money and multiple women he had his way with, it still didn't replace the love that was missing. So what would force Ron Harvey to go out to the streets to get money? There could be two things. That's poverty or some type of abuse in the household. Pain is how villains are created. As a kid, we're all fans of Batman, but as we get older, we all start to understand Joker. We understand more and more the further the movie go back into his life. Now, based on Ron Harvey's actions, something just had to happen to him just to make his morals go completely out the window. To just destroy your life with his bare hands, he didn't even have to use a weapon. He would just walk up to someone and snap their neck like a twig. On public record, it says he was a cook, but that was just a front and cover up to hide under a business. The important thing to know about him is he once worked at a slaughterhouse, and that might have contributed to his sick ways of not being afraid to get messy. And men would describe his enjoyment of slaughtering animals. Like, damn, I wonder how many humans he brought past the office. And it's well known that he did dissect a couple humans in his time. Now, with working at a slaughterhouse, there's a story about him knocking out cows with his bare hands. That tells you something right there. When people have the love of torturing animals, they're not mentally sane. That's usually the first step of a serial killer. Taking a human's life after inhaling the fear made him very comfortable with his dirty work with humans. To become that insane, something has to be not clicking upstairs correctly. It has to start from childhood. Just the hate you have for the world. That's a sign of no love. Something had to be going on in his early childhood that scared this man. Your thoughts on love reflect on how you treat the next person. There's no way you can have kids on your own that you love dearly and could just harm something that's innocent. And he had kids of his own. I mean, look at how his kids turned out though. One offed himself, and the other is doing 40 years behind bars for taking a life as a teenager. Having no respect for human life just ran through his bloodline. The Black Mafia were playing hits by holding meetings and would ask for volunteers before they picked people. And he was always the first one. It's like he did this stuff for fun. When they went out to DC for the massacre, he was the only high-ranking member. That tells you right there. It was only supposed to be those crash dummies. Now there's a big difference between wanting to be there and having to be there. But we all talk about the things that are reported. But what about the things that are not reported? The stuff he didn't get caught doing, that he took to the grave. He had a total of 20 to 25 arrests. How many crimes do you have to commit to get caught 25 times? If he didn't think twice about those babies, no telling what other activities he had to bury. But he was sentenced to over 40 years in prison and didn't have a care in the world. He'd done his prison time in peace. And in my opinion, it should have been some type of evaluation going on. His brain should have been studied. Now, Ron Harvey would end up passing away of a bad heart, and that was pretty much it. I know he was on one of my first videos I covered on YouTube about 2 years ago, and I would use words like real gangster in a tone that sounded like I was glorifying it. Excuse me for that. The correct term is mental sickness. And for Dark Low to name himself after this man, he should have been checked on to see if he was okay himself. Now, if we call Apple a sucker, then what we call this? What do you call this right here? Cause if this gangster, that means Apple is gangster, Jeffrey Dahmer's gangster, and all those sickles are gangster. Now, and after this video, you have to pit Ron Harvey as #1 of the most feared. That was over Wayne Perry, Greg Scarpa, all of them. Now, these guys might have been insane, don't get me wrong, but they did spare children. But that's all we got for tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button and show love in the comments. Y'all make sure y'all take it easy this weekend. Be safe out there. I'm out.